This is Carl Scott, and welcome to Next on KIBC News Today. A complex diplomatic scare resulted in Kaltovar's NARL, or National Atomic Readiness Level, being lowered from 4 to 2. The incident started when video and photographs were smuggled out of Porymonian of human beings undergoing what appeared to be mind control. Initial evaluation by a KEX 9190 hypercomputing mainframe computer known as Jeremy determined the images had not been digitally altered. Cyborg and artificial commanders agreed that there was a possibility this was an example of a MAGU scenario. MAGU is an acronym for Mind-Altering Global Unification Scenario, which is a term the military uses to define an event where a country attempts to harness the power of mind control to enslave part or all of the world. The sudden, unexpected presence of then unknown robots in Porymonian was erroneously thought to mean that Porymonian had sent autonomous legions to another country to repress them. The military was able to confirm their presence with satellites as well as signals intelligence and physical surveillance flights, or SIPS flights, undergone by HAZ-682 multispectral surveillance aircraft. Due to rapidly escalating threats from multiple third parties against Porymonian and the concerns regarding the ethics behind Porymonian's experiments as well as the strategic implications behind the possibility of unknown robots in Porymonian, the military concluded there was at least a good possibility that the robots were Porymonian in origin, and that the MAGU scenario had evolved into a RAMAGU scenario, short for Robotically Augmented Mind-Altering Global Unification. The RAMAGU scenario is a scenario very much akin to the MAGU scenario, except that in the case of a RAMAGU scenario, the hostile opposing force also has access to totally autonomous murder weapons. In response to this series of troubling events, the military first mobilized the 362nd Paracorps Brigade, in addition to two mechanized brigades, including the 1st Mechanized Brigade, codename Revolution. This team of quick response brigades were moved into defensive forward deployments so that they could aid a potential allied force in the collective defense against the possibility of a RAMAGU scenario. It was then that our long-honored comrade nation of Krystalveil vouched that Porymonian was not a large-scale military threat, and the synthetic intelligence known as Titus, which is presently inhabiting Departmentum Diplomaticus AI Corps No. 1, automatically responded to the transmission from Krystalveil and informed them that we would consider their input valuable due to Kaltovar's positive relations with them in the past. Titus also informed Krystalveil on our behalf that, regardless of their assurances, Porymonian's actions had inevitably resulted in the National Atomic Readiness Level being elevated. The state computer then correctly informed the international community, including Porymonian, that if Porymonian was to engage in a RAMAGU scenario, it would immediately result in a nuclear, biological, and chemical response from Kaltovar. When other nations commented that Porymonian was in bunkers, they were reminded that Kaltovar possesses both bunker-busting atomic munitions and the land shear system of continuous nuclear bombardment, which enables us to literally dig our enemies out of the Earth itself via repeated atomic blasts, such that we may strike their bunkers directly. These comments on our part, intended to deter a potential RAMAGU scenario, were unclear and caused much speculation among third parties. The international community, led by a small nation called Matshi, then rallied to impose sanctions on Porymonian for its perceived hostility. In all the chaos, some countries understood Kaltovar's warning against Porymonian to be a direct threat against Krystalveil, because Krystalveil is nominally aligned with Porymonian. However, as Krystalveil is an honorable nation, they would obviously not side with Porymonian in the event they were attempting a RAMAGU scenario, a point that was lost on many third-party observers, which caused them to believe a threat of war had been issued between these two major world powers. A brief exchange occurred between the international community, including Krystalveil, and Kaltovar's automatic defensive AI, which issued the initial statements. During this conversation, misperceptions about the military capabilities of the superpowers were addressed. Unfortunately, because the military capabilities of Krystalveil and Kaltovar were being directly compared, this further escalated the unfounded rumors of a possible future hot war between the countries. Titus made it positively clear that any possible war between the superpowers would result in a stalemate that, because of the populations of the countries involved, could last literally forever. Titus then made clear that Kaltovar did not regard a forever war as a desirable resolution to the conflict in Porymonia, but that in the event of a Ramagu scenario, Kaltovar would be obligated to respond with the full force of its strategic arsenal to prevent such atrocities from being unleashed on the international community. The two countries agreed that friendship was the best solution. There is no reason to believe Krystalveil would protect Porymonia in the event of a Ramagu scenario, or even a Magu scenario. Therefore, the risk of war between the superpowers is extremely low at the moment, especially given that our honored comrade Krystalveil has assured us that Porymonia is trustworthy. Kaltovar demobilized 2 mechanized divisions and decreased the Gnarl from 2 to 3, which means we are prepared to respond to an imminent strategic threat in 45 minutes or less. The Snarl, or Secret National Atomic Readiness Level, remains secret. This is Carl Scott for KIBC News Today, and the time is 7 o'clock in Doppelberg this morning.